Hello everyone, this is Bill Griffin. Welcome to Different Take Podcast. If you like this content, please subscribe, like, share, comment. Really appreciate you watching. A few days ago, I did an episode regarding an interview CNN did with David Peisner. It's episode 132. There's a bit of a problem with the audio on that episode, so I apologize for that audio and the video clips. So we've gotten that corrected. I was talking about Mr. Peisner's use of the word violence in regards to glass breaking, protesters, glass breaking, and they set a police car on fire. I don't know what else, but these protesters were they were upset over an activist being killed by police after allegedly firing on police, and I think a state patrol officer got injured. At any rate, after doing that episode, I also saw an interview with an activist on a program called Democracy Now! And you can find him on YouTube. Apparently they've been doing this for quite a while. I'd never heard of them. And it also occurred to me that a lot of people may not know the history of what's going on there, which I was somewhat familiar with, but I've done a little research since then. So this death occurred on January 18th, where police were trying to clear protesters from property where a facility was being built for police training. This is in DeKalb County, Georgia. And the protests occurred on January 21st, and they were over the death of a 28-year-old Manuel Teran, T-E-R-A-N. However, the protesters call him by another name, Tortuga or something. So I'll start with this clip from this Democracy Now! Video. And I will say this. The moderator, Amy Goodman, there's a lot of videos of her. Apparently had been doing this over a really long time. I'd never heard of them before. Looking at the videos, maybe at one time she was balanced from doing a little research, but she's not now. She doesn't interview anyone that she doesn't disagree with, and she has a very far left ideology, and you can tell that by the interview subjects. So this is the first clip. You can find this on YouTube. It's called Atlanta Police Kill Forest Defender at Protest Encampment Near Proposed Cop City Training Center.
Reasons.
On Wednesday, January 18th, multiple police departments descended upon Weelaunee People's Park in unprecedented numbers and force. They blocked access to the park on both roads and bike trails. Some people were arrested for attempting to document police actions that day at the park. Gunfire was heard at 9:04 a.m. About a dozen shots fired in rapid succession, followed by a loud boom about a minute later.
So these protesters are calling this Weelaunee People's Park. This is private property. This is not a public park, but they're using this name. They're basically criminal trespassers. And says multiple police departments. That sort of makes sense that you would have multiple police departments doing this because for their safety. The area is wooded, they claim. I don't know how wooded it is, but it's not entirely wooded. They block access to the park on both roads and bike trails. If there are any roads or bike trails there, it wasn't anything that was done to encourage people to drive or ride bikes through there. It may have been these activists that have been squatting there. And I'm going to go over the history of this in reverse chronological order. But some people were arrested for attempting to document police actions that day. That's probably, you just wonder if police would arrest over something like that. This is the second clip where an activist is being interviewed on this same program. Interviewer's name is Amy Goodman again.
Less than likely that the police version of events is what really happened. The idea that he was sitting in a tent and fired out of the tent at basically a SWAT team, DeKalb County Police, Atlanta Police, and Georgia State Troopers who were there in great numbers to do the raid that they conducted in the park. And the idea is that this person shot and then they fired back. As the little intel that we have, residents said that they heard a blast of gunshots all at once. Not one blast and then a return of fire. Also, there's been no other information released. We don't know how many times this young person was hit with bullets. We don't know the areas in which this person was hit. We don't know if this is potentially a friendly fire incident. All we know is what the version of the police have given. And that's why we're calling for an independent investigation, not one that's done by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, not one that's done by any federal authority, but a complete independent investigation. Because that's the only way we're going to know what really happened. But right now, based on what we do know, we cannot say anything except that this is probably a political assassination.
So this activist named Kemal Franklin is claiming that this is probably an assassination with zero evidence. The interviewer does not press him on this topic at all. I thought the interview was very interesting, did not ask any questions to call attention to the fact that this is not public land, it's privately owned. What are the people doing there? When did they get there? Are they members of an organization? Where are they from? Do they live in Atlanta or even in Georgia? She does not ask if the protesters were living there or how long they were living there, or what their objectives were. Even the New York Post, they claimed this after the fact. Spoiled children of privilege trying to burn Atlanta down. So you might want to check that out, NewYorkPost.com. The police should have been there in great numbers. That makes perfect sense. They have very little motivation to kill someone. They're just trying to clear the area so the construction can go forth. But they put up with these folks living in the woods for quite a while. Well, background, reverse chronological order. December 14th, this is what CNN reported. 5 people were arrested and charged with domestic terrorism in Atlanta on Tuesday after a clash between activists and law enforcement at a site said to be turned into a state-of-the-art training facility for police, state investigators said. The planned $90 million, 85-acre Atlanta Public Safety Training Center is to be built in a forested area of DeKalb County that used to be a prison farm. The proposed facility will include a shooting range, mock city, and burn building. CNN has previously reported activists determined to stop the project dubbed Cop City have camped out in the forest trees and have said they do not plan to leave. One thing I'd like to point out is when Amy Goodman was interviewing this activist, Kemal Franklin, she does not ask if there's any support from the neighborhood for these activists. I doubt that there's hardly any support within the neighborhood. Typically, residents feel much more comfortable and safer when they're living in relatively close proximity to a police station. Andy No has reported on this group too. He's posted some videos on his site. That's Andy No, NGO. This is a video that I found and some other material that I want to show you from a website called Unicorn Riot. And this is, they say they're an independent media organization that's very supportive of BLM, typical political positions that BLM and Antifa and far left you would expect. So it's not surprising. So this is what happened because there's another incident on May 14th. So this was posted on an article on this website, Unicorn Riot. What happened were these protesters apparently that were living in what they call a forest. I'll get to that in a second. They traveled to Kennesaw, Georgia, 35 miles away to protest at a surveyor who's surveying the property and trying to pressure him not to do his work. So, and they're trying to cause a big scene. And so this is the text from Unicorn Riot, and I blacked out the person's name. The group distributed flyers alerting neighbors to the work and his company are doing in DeKalb County. In their prepared statement, the protesters made a clear request of, quote, "We hold no ill will towards you personally. We just want you to make this one right decision. We know, as many other contracts with many other companies, we are only here to ask you to drop this one company, Brassfield and Gorey, until they dropped their contract with the Atlanta Police Foundation. After about 10 minutes, the group quickly dispersed without incident." Well, you saw that there was an incident, and there's a photo of the incident. So these people, activists, show up at this man's house. They don't know, 35 miles away from this forest, and threaten him, basically. If you continue the work, maybe this small little puff of smoke may be a lot bigger problem for you. So they're implying that violence may be coming his way. That's the way I take that, wouldn't you? One member of the group read aloud a prepared statement demanding the company pull out of their contract with Brassfield and Gorey, the general contractor hired by the Atlanta Police Foundation, the project's main architect. We want our children and neighbors to be able to breathe clean air and experience the vastness of the Atlanta forest, not to be victims of a domestic war zone, they shouted. You have the power to stop that. So city dwellers that really haven't been out in a rural area where there's a lot of woods would not call typically 85 acres of forest. This was this is a pretty small plot of ground. And the idea that they're trying to protect these trees, that's not why they're there. They're trying to protect the environment. They're trying to have a confrontation, in my opinion, and they got that with the Atlanta Police Department because they really don't like police. That's what it comes down to. The particular parcel of land slated to become a police training center is the former home of a city-run prison farm which operated in the area from 1920 to 1989. The facility was used to house prisoners from Atlanta who were forced to work on the farm, raising food for the city's prison population. Since its closure, the city has maintained its ownership of the land, using it as a dumping ground while the forest around it slowly engulfed its collapsing carceral infrastructure. So this, when I think of forest, I think of thousands of acres of natural wooded area that hasn't been disturbed for a long time. That's not the case here. The city still owned the property, and so they're admitting that these people were criminal trespassing. Again, this comes from the same website, Unicorn Riot. To say they're using it as a dumping ground, that's probably not true. They probably weren't monitoring that other people, private citizens, were using it as a dumping ground. But at any rate, we would just call it the woods, maybe, at best. You wouldn't call it a forest. In my opinion, I wouldn't call it a forest. But they're trying to portray the idea that they're protecting the forest and protecting the environment. That's not their objective at all. They're really there for confrontation. And unfortunately, they got one. So this was posted, a warning on a tree. Trees within a 100-meter radius of the sign have been spiked to prevent felling and milling. This process is entirely safe for the trees. They have been inoculated randomly with a combination of galvanized steel and ceramic spikes and screws. Magnetic destruction and removal cannot reliably ensure that spikes are not present. Attempting to remove trees in this area may pose a substantial danger to you or others. Please do not risk your safety to destroy this important wildlife habitat. So basically, you've got criminal trespassing and destruction of property. These folks are really looking for trouble. And Andy, as I said, he posted a few videos on this group that were in Atlanta. They came from all over the country, according to him. That's what the public reports are. At any rate, it's unfortunate. Who knows what motivated this person to, sounds like, makes sense, that he shot at police first. He was killed, all this uproar, and they get a lot of public attention out of it. So that's kind of the history of what led up to the protest, and we call them protests, but they were rioting for sure and causing a lot of destruction. So that's my episode today. I appreciate you watching. If you like this content, please subscribe, like, share, comment. Thanks for watching.